For nearly 4 decades, Peter Sullivan sat in a prison cell, not because of what he did, but because of what the system failed to see. He was convicted of a brutal crime in 1984, and for 38 long years he maintained his innocence, while the world moved on. This is not just the story of a man wrongly imprisoned. This is a story about broken justice, withheld evidence, and the price of silence. You're watching DarkSide UK, and this is the story of Peter Sullivan. It was March 1984, in a quiet council estate in South London. The body of 21-year-old Michelle Tanner was found in her flat, strangled, bruised, signs of a violent struggle. But curiously, there were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no smashed windows. Whoever did it likely knew her. Police focused on one man almost immediately, Peter Sullivan, a 25-year-old delivery driver living 2 buildings away. The reason? Months earlier, Michelle had reportedly rejected him at a pub, a brief, casual interaction twisted into motive. The evidence? Circumstantial at best. There were no fingerprints tying him to the scene, no blood, no murder weapon. Just a neighbor who claimed to have seen him near her flat that night. Another claimed they heard shouting, but never saw a face. And then came the so-called confession. A prison informant alleged that Peter had confessed while in remand. But what the jury didn't know was that this same inmate had testified, in multiple cases before, always getting lenient treatment in return. That didn't matter. Within 7 months, Peter was arrested, tried, and found guilty. The trial lasted just over 2 weeks. The jury deliberated for under 5 hours, and with that, Peter Sullivan was sentenced to life in prison. He entered HMP Wandsworth in December 1984, a young man, adamant he had done nothing wrong. But outside the prison walls, no one seemed to be listening. Peter filed appeals, rejected. He requested DNA testing, ignored. His letters to journalists and advocacy groups were returned or unread. His world was reduced to a 6 by 8 foot cell in a system that had locked him away without real proof. For decades, he watched as other prisoners came and went. He saw murderers confess and be released in under 20 years. But Peter? He stayed. Because he wouldn't confess to a crime he didn't commit. As time passed, the case faded from public memory. There were no documentaries, no media campaigns. His name wasn't on placards or protest banners. He was just a statistic, one of many lifers in the UK prison system. And all the while, the real killer may have been walking free. Then, in 2019, a breakthrough. A group of law students working with a UK Innocence project took up Peter's file. It was a last resort, a shot in the dark. But in the depths of the case records, they found something strange. An untested cigarette butt found near Michelle's body. It had been collected but never processed, likely due to limitations in forensic technology back in the 80s. The students pushed. They filed paperwork. They demanded DNA testing using modern techniques. Months later, the results came in. The DNA didn't match Peter Sullivan. In fact, it didn't match anyone in the trial. But it did match a known sex offender, a man with a violent record who lived in Michelle Tanner's building in 1984. He died in 2001. He was never questioned, never charged, never even mentioned during Peter's trial. Armed with this new evidence, the Innocence Project filed an application with the Criminal Cases Review Commission. After 2 years of legal back and forth, the Court of Appeal reviewed the case. In June 2022, Peter Sullivan's conviction was formally quashed. He walked out of prison after 38 years, a free man. Outside the courtroom, journalists gathered. Microphones were pushed toward his face. His first words were quiet, but heavy with truth. "I've lost everything, but at least now I've got the truth." Peter never received compensation. Not yet, at least. The government argued that it couldn't be conclusively proven he was innocent, only that the conviction was unsafe. A legal technicality for a life stolen. Peter Sullivan was 25 when he entered prison. He was 63 when he left. He missed his parents' funerals. He never used a mobile phone, never had a family. The world he came back to was unfamiliar, digital, distant. And now, he lives quietly, with the weight of freedom and the shadows of time pressing on his shoulders. He avoids interviews. He avoids the spotlight. He says he doesn't want fame. He just wanted someone, anyone, to believe him. Peter's story is not unique. In the UK alone, dozens of people have been wrongly convicted due to flawed trials, biased investigations, or withheld evidence. But Peter's story reminds us of something deeper, that justice delayed is not just justice denied. It is a life lost. For nearly 40 years, an innocent man sat behind bars while the real killer escaped scrutiny. How many more sit there today, buried under silence? You've been watching DarkSide UK. Subscribe for more true stories from the shadowed corners of Britain. And remember, stay curious, stay cautious,